Welcome inside the first off-season edition of the Scores Table. Brian Henson, Josh Abel, Courtney Delk, Danny Reagan here with you, and we're joined by Andy Maguire, recently retired coach, which is a weird thing to say out loud. I'm sure it's a weird thing to hear too, Andy, and head coach of the Indiana All-Stars this year. How you been doing, sir?
Doing great. Yeah, it is weird. It's just when you run into players and you see, I teach at the middle school, so I have all these little, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders going, Coach, you're not coaching, and that's really weird for me to say. Yeah, I'm not, but it's been good, and I'm excited, and obviously really excited to coach the All Stars.
So I'll start off the questions here and toss to somebody else. But how did you find out that you were coaching the All Stars, and what does that process look like from the coach's side?
Yeah, I received a call, probably from Mike Broughton. Right at the end of the season. So I knew a fair amount of time before it had actually been announced. Part of, Mike shared that part of why he does that is that he's actually had some coaches, I guess, in the past that have said, hey, I really don't have time to do that, or for whatever reason. So he kind of wants to get a feel if you're interested. And obviously that's been a lifetime kind of dream for me, growing up in Indiana. My dad was a boys high school basketball coach. So as a young kid, I always wanted to be on the All-Star team, obviously, and wasn't that gifted. But when I got into coaching, that was always one of my goals. And obviously I got to be part of the junior All-Stars, and that was a really great experience for me. And to get this call was really a surprise, but and a great honor. And I was really excited when I got it.
What is it, as somebody who's not from Indiana, and Courtney, if you want to weigh on this too, what is it about Indiana All-Stars that makes it so special to coach in this game? And then Courtney, obviously from the player's perspective, to participate in it. And if you want to lead us off.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know. As a kid, I went to the All-Star game quite a bit. I still remember my dad was a boys basketball coach in Zionsville from 70 to 76. And so Debbie Funkhauser she was an Indiana All-Star a long time ago, played at Purdue, but she was the first Zionsville, Indiana All-Star. And I remember as a kid going and watching her play, and I just thought how neat that was. Her father was my dad's assistant coach, so kind of started with that. And then I would say I followed obviously the boys more than I followed the women's side as a young teenager. But I've always been one that has supported the Indiana All-Star experience. I think we were lucky to have Layla Hall be a Miss Basketball, and to me, that's the greatest honor that any player can have in the state of Indiana. And I think it's just really important. And obviously basketball is a really important part of this state and of Zionsville and all the people that are on this panel.
Yeah, from the player perspective, I think that there's great teams, but then there's also great players. And so when you get the Indiana All-Stars, there's players who are on there who are, they're legends. They go down as an Indiana All-Star who maybe their team didn't do as well, didn't go far, so a lot of people didn't hear about them. But you can never, have that title taken away from you of being an Indiana All-Star. And you go into arenas and gymnasiums throughout the state, and you see the banners hanging up, Indiana All-Star. You see the signs going into little towns throughout Indiana. You're driving along, and it's, Indiana All-Star, so-and-so lived here, Miss Basketball, Mr. Basketball. Like, it's just the culture of Indiana. You can't explain it. And so being named as an Indiana All-Star, it's like all of the work that you've put in. Obviously, you want your teams to do well, but, like, to have that award and to have that jersey never taken away from you of all the work that you individually have put in, it's just it's a pretty amazing thing, especially, too, for the coaches that are involved. They're legendary coaches, and so they may never have won a state championship, but like the coaches who coach Indiana All-Stars, they're legends as well.
Andy has won a state championship, and I'm rusty. I should have run down the show. We're going to spend the first half of the show talking Indiana All-Stars with Andy, process some background on this teams, obviously, and then for the second half of the show, we're going to do a line change here and talk about Andy's career, kind of do a retrospective with Will Willems, Josh, and then we have a special guest coming in to surprise everybody. But yeah, getting back to the All-Stars, Andy, what does these early stages look like? The game, as we record this, is about a month away. So what does it look like now?
Yeah, I mean, to this point, like I said, we haven't had a practice yet together. We've had a Zoom call with all the players and their parents, and we've communicated a lot through texting and through email and stuff on various things. But we're excited. This Sunday we'll get together for a 3-hour practice. Our coaching staff, Lauren Vota and Jason Simpson, we've communicated a lot as coaches. One of the first things I wanted to do is delegate kind of some responsibility to each coach. I've gotten pretty good at that. I've become a better coach at the end of my career here because I delegate a lot to my assistants, and luckily I've had great assistants. But that worked out really well. Jason's going to be kind of the offensive guy. Lauren's going to be the defensive person. I'm kind of more in I'm looking more at the transition part and the full court aspect. I like some early offense things, especially with the shot clock. I think that's important to have. And then, I think with this group, we're going to try to play up tempo for sure. And I think we're going to try to press and do some different things. So it's been fun to communicate back and forth on some of our goals and some of our expectations for this group. Obviously not seeing them all together. We still have a lot to learn about each player and about, what groups work best with each other. And that'll be a process that we probably will wish we had more time to do. But I think, this group, these kids, as you know, they all know each other fairly well, and they've played together or played against each other at some point. And I just think we're really, we're excited to have all this talent on one team.
Yeah, that was like one of the things I was going to ask Coach, because I've had the pleasure of coaching against you. And one of the things I was always like really impressed with just like how buttoned up and how well organized you guys are. Like you guys always run great stuff, come out of timeouts or, special teams. And how do you take this group where obviously they're phenomenal players. You have a small amount of time to prepare, and you're trying to get on the same page, whether it's terminology or offense or defense. Like, how do you make sure that you guys are organized with limited practice time?
Yeah, we got to be really detailed. I mean, I've made a practice schedule I made about 2 weeks ago, and it's very detailed as to who's doing what and who has what responsibilities. I think you got to trust. I know Lauren, obviously coaching against Fishers, and she does an excellent job. And we got to play Greensburg this year, so I got to know Jason a little bit. So I think, I really trust those two, that they'll be really specific about what they want to do. At the same time, I think, we want to be careful with a group like this. I think we want them to also play. We don't want to hold them back, and we don't want to make it so structured that they just can't play basketball. So I think we'll try to keep it as simple as we can in this short amount of time. We were talking about ball screens. How are we going to guard those? And there's so many different ways. I told them, whatever we decide on that, let's just say this is how we're doing it, and that's how we're doing it, and go with it, because we think we can do a lot of different things. We could probably switch everything with this group. We could probably trap a lot of things. So yeah, those are still things we're talking through as a group. And I think Sunday will give us even a better kind of overall picture of how we want to move going forward, and get ready for June.
We were talking before the show, Andy, and if you don't want to talk about this on air, it's fine. But some of the unique things that you're doing with the girls, like team building wise, of having them bring in some different things and then some other questions and stuff. I'll let you have the floor if you'd like, and to tell us some of the things you're doing with the girls.
That's probably my favorite part of coaching as I've gotten older. The team building and just coming up with new ideas has been something that I've really spent a lot more time on. I think as a younger coach, I was more concerned about X's and O's, and I was more concerned about winning and losing. And then I don't know that I've gotten wiser, but I've kind of changed my philosophy on that. And one thing that I've always felt really proud of in Zionsville is I think most of our kids would say they really had a great experience. And it's not always because we won games. It was because we did a lot of other things. And I think team building is just a huge part of that. It's hard when you got a group for a short amount of time, but in preparation for our, practice Sunday, I made a playing card. I gave an example, sent it out to every kid. And on that playing card, they're going to tell us just a lot about themselves and things that they're proud of. So they're going to share, what motivates them. I think that's important for us to know because, some kids are motivated by just a lot of positive stuff. And I've had kids say, Coach, can you please just yell at me every once in a while? That actually motivates me. So we kind of picked out some questions that we thought would help us get to know the girls better and for them to get to know each other better, but also for us as coaches to get to know how they would like to be coached. And I think that's important. Oftentimes I think we think that everybody's the same, and we deep down, we know that everybody can be coached a little bit differently and you can get better results by doing it that way. So that was one thing. And to give them some input, we've asked that they share kind of like what's their favorite play, what's their, could be an out of bounds play, could it be a set that they like to run as a team. And so that'll be interesting to see what they bring to the table on Sunday. So those are a couple things we started with, and then we have some things that we are going to do Sunday to have a little fun and just to let them get to know each other.
So Andy, how's it going?
Great. How you doing, Danny?
Good. Tell us about the team. I mean, obviously you've done some research. Emma, you've obviously coached against a bunch of them in postseason and conference play, but tell us about the team. What's your early research tell you?
Well, we're a little guard heavy probably, but that's okay. If you got Chloe Spreen on the floor, I'm pretty confident that we're going to be successful. I've got to coach against Chloe, and obviously when I first really kind of saw her, Danny, was when you had Layla and Chloe on the same AAU team. She's just such a well-rounded player. I think the thing that people don't understand with her is how good a passer she is. When I watch her as a coach, I think she's just a really good teammate. So, I think it starts, obviously being a really good Miss Basketball. She's a great addition to the team. But I mean, there's just so much talent. I mean, Reagan Wilson has been one of my favorites. And least favorites because we play against her so often in our conference. But I mean, gosh, you talk about a leader and a communicator and a kid that's just a winner. She's unbelievable. So I'm really excited to be able to be her coach and not coach against her. Jordyn Poole, unbelievable talent there, just so athletic, so quick. We never got to play against her in the regular season, but we played against her last summer. And I just enjoy, as a coach who loves basketball, I just enjoy the way she plays, the passion she plays with, the energy she plays. So, those are three solid people. Obviously, I'm really excited to coach Emma again. It's pretty special. For me, one of the things that I'm most proud of probably is just the fact that, in the last 8 years, we've had 4 Indiana All-Stars, and that's really special and quite an honor for those girls. But having Emma get that recognition has been huge. She's just a tough kid, hard worker. She earns everything, that she gets. But, there's so many good kids. I mean, Faith Wiseman's such a talent, going to IU. We played against her last summer. The girl that I don't want to be partial here, but Juliann Woodard, when I watch her, I just think, man, you're talking about a girl that could play the 5 spot, but you could also use her to bring the ball down the floor if you needed to. I think her just strength and versatility is really huge. So, I could go on and on. This group just got a lot of talent. at the same time, I've kind of looked at some of these Kentucky kids, and they've got a lot of talent as well. So it's going to be a good challenge for us.
Yeah. So I had one more, Coach. So when obviously you want to give every girl an opportunity to kind of show what they can do in these games, but as you know, like playing 12 is a lot. So how do you balance like giving them opportunities to showcase their talent, but at the same time trying to win the game?
Yeah, I mean, we've already made a T-shirt and we made a logo, and it basically refers to our goals to win too. I mean, so we're going into this thing. I think it's been I think the last time was like 2016 that the Indiana women had won 2 in a row. So that's our goal. Now at the same time that we want to value the fact that each girl deserved to be on this team. So our other goal is that we want to make sure we have 13. That's going to be a tough rotation, but we want to make sure that every kid gets in the game and is part of it. And then we're trying to we'll obviously figure this out more as we get to see the kids play against the juniors and see them play in different settings. But we're going to win. And we've already talked about that in our Zoom calls. So when it gets to that second half, we're going to go with the kids on the floor that we think are going to give us the best chance to win. And what we hope is through the team building and all that stuff that we build a bench that's going to be supportive of that. I mean, I think that's a really huge thing. These are all kids that are not used to coming out of games. I mean, these are kids that never came off the floor all season long for their teams. But I think they're also, based on our conversations with these kids so far, they're also all team players. So it's going to be a different role. And I think, one thing that they'll need to understand, this could be the same role that they have that freshman year in college. It's not like a lot of these kids are going to just step right on the floor and be, never come out. So I think this will be a good experience for them and maybe help them in preparation for that as well.
Speaking of freshman year of college, I love the mental, emotional side of things. And I really just want to, get your wisdom of, so what happens, a lot of these girls, they're going to go through their high school graduations, then the Indiana All-Star game against Kentucky. And then like the next day, a lot of these girls, they're moving away from home. They're moving out of state and like they're getting immersed into the college atmosphere. They're starting classes. They're on to the next chapter, workouts. The emotions get heavy after spring break for a senior basketball player who's moving on. So what just kind of advice would you give to these girls? And you're going to be around them here soon as they go into this transition period.
Yeah, one thing we talked about with them for this week of when we're at Marion is that we really want them to enjoy the experience because, so many times we go through things and, well, I think about the year we went to the state tournament. I mean, I don't know that I ever really enjoyed the experience. You get so hung up on all the preparation and all the other things that go around it. I'm not sure that we ever really, or me personally, ever really enjoyed it as much as I should have. So we told him, let's really work on being present where our feet are. I mean, that's something we're really focused on. Let's have fun as a group together. And let's enjoy this because you are in that next week, you are moving to a whole different world, with new people, new coaches. You're going to be away from your parents. So enjoy this last opportunity to represent your state, represent your hometown and your teammates. And so that's one thing we hope that they do in this process. But at the same time, we hope that, we can kind of have some conversations with the group before they leave and move on that next week as to some things they might expect, some things that, they may need help with, right? I mean, you know how it is as young adults, we think we have all the answers and we think everything's going to be fine. And then when you're, 500 miles away from home, things don't feel quite the same. So hopefully we can help them in that process. I think that, it will be great that there'll be a group that all has kind of similar experiences that are happening to him at the same time, and that they can share some of their thoughts and feelings and share some of that emotional, mental stuff that may be going on in their own heads.
Andy, I think what's unique about the All-Stars, you know, in one of your previous answers, you talked about obviously your experience with Emma and Reagan in the sectional and your experience with Chloe and Layla being teammates and things like that. But, you know, you also have kids maybe that you're not that familiar with, or were there instances where you had a kid where you're like, I don't really know much about them. What's been your experience with having a kid maybe that you don't have a ton of familiar with as to what they do very well? Did you talk to their high school coaches, watch film, or you just kind of get into the gym and just kind of talk about some of those kids and maybe who they are on this roster?
Yeah, you mean, like a girl like Alli Harness. I've seen a lot, heard a lot, but never really never coached against her. But I have watched film, and I mean, she's a really talented, player and just an unbelievable shooter. The girls, Wirts and Annee from Center Grove, we have never played them in a real game, but one thing I love with them is we play them every summer because of the way they do things, because they run things so well that I know they're going to make us defend, and so I think that's valuable. So I always ask that they, we would either go to Center Grove or they would come to Zionsville, because I knew we would get better because we were playing against them. Those are some kids I, don't know that well, but know from afar, but I know that they've been coached really well. And I think, like the Walsh girl from Penn, I know that she's been coached really, really well. And so I think there's a lot of that you see with these kids that they have been coached well, not just through their high school coaching, but again, through their individual trainers, through their AAU coaches, through those experiences. These kids all have put in the time and the work. And, we've tried to watch as much film as we can, but I think this Sunday is going to give us a firsthand look at how they are in a practice situation and how they are. Can they look you in the eye? Based on what I saw in our Zoom calls, man, these kids are they're smart, well-spoken, very thankful for this opportunity. And I think that's a great start.
I tell you what, too, this team has got some good personality, too, with like Reagan, Cam Runner. I don't know how familiar you are with Camryn Runner, but she's
Camryn's another one. Hamilton Heights is close, but we just played them. Now I've scouted a couple times, and Hamilton Heights has been the team that the other team I've been really watching has been playing. And obviously, when you watch, it's hard to not pay attention to her. I mean, she's just an unbelievable talent and such a hard worker. I mean, based on when I watch, I just amazed at how her motor just never stops. So, yeah, I'm excited to have her on this team.
And then Lauren Walsh, we talked a little bit before the show. I haven't gotten a chance to see her play in person. This will be my first time, but it sounds like with her, it's the defensive side of things that really popped out to you guys when you're scouting.
Yeah, it was the defense for sure. I mean, she was, especially on film, we saw it, and then we saw it live at the top 60. Her defense stood out over anybody's in that whole workout. So I think that really helped. I think that was an area that we thought, we may need some kid that we say, hey, we gotta have some really good ball pressure here in this, in these few instances, and we felt like she would, kind of play that role really well for us. And I thought her passing was really solid as well. And again, with this group, with so many shooters, having an extra passer on the floor is going to be really important. Some people I haven't talked about, though. I mean, like Talia Harris, obviously got huge respect for her. Fisher's probably one of them, again, maybe other than Reagan, is one of my least favorite teams to play. I mean, they just play so well. And Talia is not just I think she's a really good defender. I mean, I think she's another kid that you can say, hey, go guard this girl, and she's gonna do it. So I'm really excited for her. Ellery, Minch, again, I haven't seen a lot of Ellery, but I was impressed with her at the top 60. She brings nice size, but she also brings a pretty good jump shot as well. So, I'm excited for all these kids.
I was going to say, Ellery gives you some of that versatility from the times that I've watched her play. So that'll be a good thing with such a guard-heavy group. With Talia, obviously, with being same conference, same sectional, how have you seen her grow from like kind of that JV kid as a freshman through what she was her senior year, one of the best in the area?
Yeah, I mean, she just kept getting better and better. I think Lauren did a great job with that group, and I think Talia, just as a coach, outside looking in, I always thought she was a really good leader on the floor as well. I mean, you could just see her always being positive with her teammates. But she just led by example like none other. I mean, she played really hard, and she's just very versatile. I mean, she's not a prolific scorer by any means, but she can score it if she needs to. And I think, she's going to, again, she could play. I think we got quite a few kids that could play, the 1, the 2, the 3, and it wouldn't matter who was in what position with this group.
How are you going to balance that? Have you started looking like how are you going to play Jordyn and Reagan, for instance? Like that's the one that I look at right away. How do you mix some of those?
I'm fine with them never coming out of the game. I think they'll play just fine together. Jordyn and I don't think. Well, I'm a guard. I wasn't as good a guard as those girls, but if you got 4 girls on the floor that are all point guards and can score it, I'll take that any day. I like the height. The height is important, and I think with Juliann and with Faith and with Ellery, we're going to have that height. But I think we got a lot of versatility and can run kids at multiple positions with this group.
Yeah. Courtney or Danny, did you guys have anything else you'd like to throw in there with Andy? Andy, do you have any other thoughts on All-Stars, anything like that before we talk about you for a while?
No, other than I'm really excited. I mean, it's kind of interesting for me being the fact that I'm, quote, kind of retired here. This is one of those few opportunities as a coach where you could literally win your last game. It doesn't happen very often as coaches. When we're in a tournament, unless we're that state champion, the season doesn't end that way for us. And my goal is that we're going to win 2 games against Kentucky, and then I'd feel pretty good about everything.
And it kind of segues perfectly into the next topic of discussion. But I mean, too, getting to close it out with Emma, getting to coach Emma for one more game. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better than that, right?
No, I'm really excited. Emma's just such a good kid. I'm really happy for her. She's going to Vermont. We just had Delaney Richardson graduate from Vermont. She had a great experience there. That's a beautiful area. Holy cow. I was out there. I watched Delaney play about a month ago. And so Emma's going to fit really well with that system out there. And, I'm just really excited for her, and she deserves it.
Awesome. So we're going to switch out Danny and Courtney. So we'll bid adieu to them.
All right.
I get them sorted in. We're going to bring in Will Willems, and I just got a text from the secret guest who will be with us here in a little bit too. Hi, Will.
How's it going, Brian? Hey, how's it going, Andy?
Hey, Will. How are you?
Good.
I needed to wear a hat tonight because my bald head wouldn't blow.
That's why I got my hat on, Coach.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you guys, and I'm also disappointed that Josh, you didn't bring up. So when Andy, I told Josh the plan for this show.
Yeah.
I asked him, I was like, so did you and Andy ever cross paths? And Josh knew exactly what game it was. I think he had the score at the ready when you guys played a couple years ago.
Well, yeah, because we always played in the tournament.
In the Franklin tournament.
In the holiday tournament.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what was interesting about that tournament. Like I always felt like, I mean, obviously, the Hall of Fame is like the big holiday tournament, but I always felt like our tournament was always really, really competitive with great teams, great coaches, big time players like that. That was like, I felt like that was always like a very underrated holiday tournament as far as like just the quality of programs that were there.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that's why we were so glad that you guys invited us to that, because it was, we knew we were going to play two quality opponents in a great facility. I mean, Franklin, holy cow, those facilities are so nice there. You guys did a great job of running that tournament always, and it always made us better. So that's those were the things we were looking for, and I think, like you said, I mean, we've played in the Hall of Fame, but I would take the Franklin tournament right there with any tournament.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm sure Coach will agree, it's like you don't get very many opportunities to simulate, like a regional. I know the format's different now, it's semi-state,
Right.
but you don't really get too many opportunities to play against two really good programs that are very well coached, and you have to have basically 3 game plans that you have to execute in one day. And for me, I always liked that because I knew that we were going to get the absolute best from you guys. And I know Brownsburg was in it a few times. I think we had Lytton Stockton in there once. You just knew that if you could somehow have a good showing that day, that would propel you to regionals. Now it's semi-state, but you know what I mean? Just from a preparation standpoint, I always felt like.
Yeah, I think for that time of year, it was perfect. I mean, it was kind of like let's see how good we really are. What can we do in a one-day situation where we're going to have to play 2 really good games? And I really thought that was huge for our program's growth and success.
Yeah, I always had so much respect for you and your staff, because if you look at your career, I feel like a lot of coaches, if they're really successful, they always, I don't know, it's always maybe they were given the keys to the kingdom. They always have really good teams and really good players. And it's I always felt like you always won with, you always won the right way. You may not necessarily always had the most talent or the best talent, but you guys always got the best out of them. And there were years there in your career where, similar to mine, there were some rough years, some lean years. And sometimes you don't know if there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and yet you just keep grinding and keep going and doing it the right way. And then obviously all the success that you've had, kind of speak on that, maybe your career and how, you got to where you did, because it was a lot of hard work.
It was a lot of hard work. I mean, so my career was kind of interesting because I did it. I forget all the years exactly, but I did it for 7 or 8 years and literally got to the point where I was burnt out. I mean, I was putting in so much time and effort, and we were average. I mean, we were pretty average. I think, again, back to what we mentioned a little bit earlier, the thing that kept me going was that all of our kids had a good experience. I mean, even though we weren't necessarily winning 16, 18 games or winning sectionals, our parents were not upset. The kids were not upset. But I was to a point at that where I wanted more. It was too frustrating for me. So I stepped away from 4 years, and probably the best thing that I ever did, because I went back, I coached middle school. So it wasn't like I stepped away from coaching, but coached middle school, kind of, I had a daughter in middle school at that point, kind of regained some passion, oh, this is what it's really about. And this is why I did it to begin with. And I also read a lot during that time, and I read a lot about, just being, I guess, more positive, really looking at the positive side of things instead of focusing on wins and losses and those kind of things. So I think I grew a lot during that time as a coach. And that's when team building, I really started to buy into, hey, I think I need to do more of that. I think that's important. And then luckily, when I got hired again, not very many coaches get hired at the same school that they left, but I got hired again. I came back at a good time because our talent level had changed. I mean, it started to change. And we, when you get people like Rachel McLemore and Maddie Nolan and Delaney Richardson, and you start to filter those kids through your program, obviously you can win more with talent. I mean, there's no coach that's not going to tell you that.
Right.
But I think my stepping away and my growth in kind of my coaching philosophy, along with the added talent, it really just happened. It was kind of a perfect storm for a period of time. And, I'm just really blessed and glad that I was able to experience that. I think just like most things that happen in our lives, it doesn't happen easily, and it takes time. And in this case, it did. It took some time, but the hard work and the time put in is obviously what what you're most happy about or most proud of in the end. And so that's kind of my journey. And I was lucky enough to again get to the state tournament. Win 5 sectionals, win a semi-state, a regional. The hardest thing for us was winning a darn conference. The ACC was
the rock fight every night.
Yeah, we won that thing one time. It's just brutal. I mean, the level of play in that conference is just so good. But that's why we were better too, because of that.
This is like kind of like weird, but like I feel like this is like some like foreshadowing here. Like Coach and I have very similar, you know what I mean? Like I feel like our careers are very similar because like I haven't been coaching for 2 years and I still love it. I miss it. I love the competition. I love the girls, but I'm like having so much like fun, like spending time with like my family and my kids because they're 17 and 14 and kind of just being dad and just like taking a step back and like you said, like it just kind of gives you an all new perspective where like before I was like winning and competing, and those things are important. I'm not saying it's not, but I definitely have like a new appreciation and a new perspective. So for me, selfishly, like it means a lot like hearing you like talk about those things because I kind of feel like that's like something similar that I'm experiencing right now.
No, I think it's so important. I mean, it probably in most professions, but in coaching, the people that probably suffer the most is your family, right? I mean, the amount of time my wife has spent with our kids, and I've been gone, or at team camps, or we're wherever. That's really that puts her in a tough situation. And I mean, I'm lucky to have had her support for all these years, but getting out and spending more time with my family and my kids was really important. They were just kind of at that age where it needed to happen. And I think similar thing has happened with you. So I don't think that's ever wrong. I mean, I would tell anybody that's the most important thing. And the good thing is you can always go back and coach. Right. And I mean, so luckily that I got the opportunity. That doesn't always work out that you get the right opportunity. But for me, getting that opportunity to coach again, it was just perfect timing.
Yeah.
Andy, you're listing through some of your former players, and that actually sets up perfectly for the guest that we have for you here.
No.
Joined by Maddie Nolan. Hi, Maddie.
Hey, Maddie.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for hopping on. I'm going to let you two catch up for a few minutes.
Yeah, this is where we get the good stuff right here.
Yeah, you guys go ahead. You guys have the floor. Will,
are you in Colorado or are you at home?
I'm at Colorado. I came back on Monday. Yeah.
Okay, I figured you were, but okay. Yeah. I'm glad you're here. That's good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Coach Maguire was actually just out here for my senior night, so I saw him not super long ago, which was nice of him to come out here. But yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I guess, Maddie, what was it like playing for Andy? Andy, what was it like coaching Maddie?
Yeah. I tell everyone I truly could not have had a better high school experience, and Coach Maguire is a huge part of that. I mean, I think it did help that I grew up around Coach Maguire. My mom was his assistant for a long time, so I've known him since I was a baby. But he was the exact coach I needed. I was a pretty good 8th grader, but came in with a really big head. And Coach Maguire really helped me, become a better leader. And he was talking a little bit about that team building stuff. And I think that was a huge part. And even though our team was really talented, we enjoyed being with each other on and off the court. And I think that's why we had the successes that we did. And even not even high school basketball, but preparing me for college, Coach Maguire did a great job, but he does such a good job of bringing in people around him that make him better, but make the girls better too. Coach Maguire knows what his strengths are, and he brings in people that maybe are better at stuff that are his weaknesses per se. And so we were surrounded by talented individuals all the time. You know, Coach Eisenbarger played under Coach Knight at IU. We had Coach Block, who played college basketball. Talia Bevilacqua played in the WNBA and played overseas. You know, I could go down the line, and it was truly a great experience. And like I said, I couldn't have asked for a better time or a better high school coach.
Andy, you had a pretty special time coaching Maddie too. Those teams are pretty special teams, huh?
I did. They well, you know, got to go back. Maddie's group had never lost a game in middle school.
Yeah.
So, but they lost one game, and it's because of me. So this is a funny story.
No, it's not. I'm still mad.
Well, we have 2 middle schools in Zionsville, and so Maddie's group, I mean, they had already played the other middle school, I think twice, hadn't you, Maddie?
Something, yeah, I can't remember.
Anyway, and it was really lopsided, like both scores. So I had this bright idea as the varsity coach. You know what? They were going to play again. I'm like, this is silly, right? Why are we going to play this game again? Let me just make even teams. I'm just going to make 2 even teams. So of course, I think Maddie's team lost, but I don't know that I've got this right. And boy, you would have thought that I was like the devil, you know, that I had ruined their whole, like, and I'm like, guys, it was just a game. It was, you know, you're going to be teammates next year. So anyway, I luckily that didn't ruin our relationship going into high school. They forgave me for that, but no, it's been so much fun to watch Maddie. You know, I can't tell you how special it is just to watch her, you know, grow up and become such just a fine young lady. She's right. She was a little hard-headed early, but she's that's part of why she was really good too. You know, so you don't ever want to take that away from a person. But luckily her mom, Chris, is probably one of the reasons I got back into coaching. She really talked to me about, hey, if you have the opportunity, you need to do it. And part of why is she knew Maddie was going to be a really good player and that group was going to be really strong. But watching Maddie play at Michigan and then obviously this year at Colorado has been really special. And the thing that's really great about her and all of our kids that have gone through our program is every summer when we have camp, they come back and work it. And they just do it just because they think it's the right thing to do. And it's been really cool to see that. And that's part of why we've continued to be good in Zionsville is because our younger kids, you know, have seen these really good role models and they want to grow up and be just like them.
Yeah. Well, you do a good job, Coach, of including us and, you know, making us want to come back too. So it's not all us at all.
Well, that's pretty easy on my part to do that. So, and she is right. Back to the assistant coaches. That's one area I definitely became a much better coach as gave a lot more responsibility to the coaches around me. I mean, it's hard not to when you have quality coaches like Phil Eisenbarger and Keelan Block and you know Bronson Licklider, and I could go on and on. Keith Hollins, obviously, who's at Pike. I was lucky to have some really good coaches around me, and that was helpful.
So part of the reason we brought Will on, both because we needed somebody to fill in, and we were desperate. Also because Will covered you two probably more than anybody else over Maddie your 4-year career and Andy over your entire coaching career.
Yep.
Will, I'll turn it over to you and let you carry the conversation here for a minute.
Well, I guess with Maddie, obviously you've been at some very successful college programs, and Coach talked about how he's kind of been able to pass over some of this stuff to his assistants. Did you feel like during your time that he almost ran it kind of like a college program, in the fact that if you go to like a Zionsville practice, it's Andy's more kind of like a CEO, but lets his assistants kind of use their strengths while he's overseeing everything, where I think a lot maybe of high school programs, the head coaches are more trying to be in control of everything.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And not even just letting his coaches do stuff, but what they teach us at Zionsville, I think is huge. Like I came into college and some kids my freshman year, they didn't know help side defense. They didn't know, basic principles of basketball just because they had been so talented and just had been able to roll the ball out and play and be successful that way. And that's fine. They got to that level for that reason, but having the basketball IQ and that knowledge from Coach Maguire and staff is a huge reason why I think I was able to play eventually my freshman year and continue to have success for sure.
I love that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I'm sorry.
I was going to just kind of say, I mean, you guys obviously had a lot of wins during your time, but you guys battled some adversity to just different members of the team with injuries. Obviously, you had your injury your senior year. Was there something Coach kind of did that stood out, just keeping you guys together as a group to be able to have success when maybe one or two of you guys were injured?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot, like our saying during that time was team together. So that was a huge part, knowing no matter who was ready to play or like who was capable of playing, I guess, at that time via injuries or sickness or whatever, we were going to come together and just lean on each other. And like I said earlier, I think the team building really set us up for that. Like we did a lot of stuff, like we'd go to a lake house during the start of the season. We would, go to Sky Zone, do all these things. So even if like I was injured, I know Megan was injured for a couple games. We had some people quit before they graduated. That was like a huge hit. But we ended up being pretty successful, I think, just because we leaned into our roles and we trusted Coach Maguire and we trusted each other.
What was it like, that state run? I mean, that was just such a magical thing. I'll let you both just have the floor. All three of you, actually. Will, you too, because you were part of that as covering it. So I'll just let you guys take the floor on that.
Yeah, that state run, the most memorable time for me was probably the regional that year. We played Carmel first game of the regional. They'd beaten us during the regular season, and then we played in the Hall of Fame Classic. They beat us in the final game of the Hall of Fame Classic. So we had lost to them twice. And they had Amy Dilk, was it Tommy Taiwo? Was that what her name was? Yeah. They had some really talented players. And man, we played I thought we played an unbelievable game in the first game of that regional, and just played tough and played hard and got contributions from all of our kids. And that win, I think, is kind of what, I mean, obviously you lose, you're not in the tournament, but that win really propelled us. I mean, we did enjoy that experience. We celebrated in that locker room at Kokomo Gymnasium like none other. And then we turned around and beat Fort Wayne South in the final game, and then went up and beat Penn up at Valparaiso. So that was so much fun. I mean, I can't even explain how much fun that whole process was. And we did a lot of team building through that. We had a little briefcase, and we did business trips, and every trip we would have a theme, and we would have all these things we would do. So it was a ball. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun, especially because going into that year, we had lost two of our like key players from the year, or three technically. Rachel graduated, two other kids quit. We started the year off. I don't know if you remember this, Coach McGuire, but we started the year off 3-3, and I thought like the world was going to end. And also before the season started, my dad was like, "Hey, these past couple years, you guys have been really good. Like, but maybe this year, just like have realistic goals. Like, make sure probably win the sectional, but other than that, I just don't know. I don't want you to like get too down on yourself." So I have like a picture actually of us with like the regional little thing, and I have turning to my dad saying, "What do you have to say now?" basically. But no, that was a fun trip, and I would be remiss not to give a shout out to Coach Hollins, and like Coach McGuire talked about that Carmel game. I think you guys, they did scouting reports too in high school, which I know not everyone does either, but Coach Hollins, I think, had the scout on that one perhaps, and he did a great job, and he was the one carrying around the briefcase. And the thing I remember from that regional was Phil Eisenbarger. How tall? He's like close to 7 feet tall, isn't he?
Well, he's 6'8", good 6'8".
Yeah,
6'9",
he's
probably,
tall.
yeah.
And after, I can't remember if we won the Carmel game or if after we won the regional, he comes into our locker room and is like rolling around on the floor. He's a big dude, like rolling on the floor, and we're just dying laughing. Like that was just the type of people we were surrounded with. And we took trips to Texas Roadhouse and Cone Palace, and you know, a lot of us are still in contact from that team, and we talk about those memories all the time.
That's awesome. Any story about Coach Maguire? Like maybe there's like a practice stands out, or like something where he just like lost it, and you know, any stories like that?
I was thinking about this today because I was like, I know that you guys are going to ask me about this. He yelled probably at us once a year just because we were usually on top of it. But there's one game, I think we had missed probably like 20 layups at halftime, and he comes in and he just snaps the clipboard in half. And I've never seen him that mad. So we're like, all right, let's get it going here in the second half. And I think we did, but he wasn't much of a yeller, really. That was more Coach Hollinger's job, I would say.
That's awesome.
I delegated the yelling too.
You were a master delegator, Andy. I remember the first time we met. I just moved to town and I came out to practice, and it's like an early practice of the year. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll say hi and then just sort of sit as a butterfly on the wall or whatever and watch. And no, I think you took the entire hour of practice and we just sat there getting to know each other. It was great, but I mean, they run a tight ship over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Again, when you have good assistants, you can really give a lot of responsibility, and I can sit and talk to reporters while they're out there doing their job. So no, I wasn't always that way, but I did enjoy it when I got to that point.
There's a game specifically, Andy, that I want to ask you about and reminisce on, and that was that sectional semifinal last year, the year the Fishers made it down to Game Bridge, where it was just the mill was packed. I remember the people lining the stands. Maddie, I don't know if you were following that at all at Michigan. But just the scene there. And Andy, for you, what was it like looking back, being part of that night and that, you know, that moment? Felt like kind of like a pivotal moment in girls basketball.
That was a pivotal moment. I mean, I think, you know, women's basketball in general, we're in a huge pivotal moment right now. When you look at the attendance and look at all the excitement around women's basketball. And I think it's the best game in town, in my opinion. I mean, it's pure basketball. I mean, it's just really good. But that night at Noblesville was just unbelievable. I mean, you had standing room only. You had 4 teams that had won 20 games, you know, in a sectional, in a semifinal. That atmosphere was just outstanding, and, you know, something that, you know, a lot of people would never experience. So, I hope that stuff continues. I think it will. I mean, I think that Indiana women's basketball is trending in the right direction. We have so many talented players from so many different schools, but that sectional and the HCC, I mean, you're just going to see that on most nights. I mean, when we play boy-girl doubleheaders, you know, in our conference, the gym is pretty much packed, and that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, Maddie, what was it like when you were playing? And Andy, obviously you too, if you want to weigh in, but when you were on that run, I mean, was it packed gyms and that sort of stuff? Did it come along, or? Yeah,
I'm trying to think. Sectionals, not as much, but when we were in that regional final game, I remember there being a lot of Zionsville people there for us. And then even I remember the state game, they sold tickets out at the school, and they sold out of those and had to get more, actually. So at the state game, for sure, we packed it. Penn, I think, was hard because it was so far. Or we played in Northern Indiana. We didn't play at Penn. We played at Valpo.
Valpo.
Yeah, which was far, and it was snowy that night because I remember a lot of my friends were like, we're on the way, but didn't get there till halftime. So they tried. They did try. But no, there was definitely a lot of support. And, you know, I was actually I was recently at home going through some of my stuff, and we got, you know, messages from all the bus drivers, from teachers, from little kids. Like, we had a little tunnel to, like, send us off to the game. So they did a great job of supporting us throughout, for sure.
Yeah, it was we had really good crowds at most of those games. You know, I think the one thing that I would hope happens more as we move forward is that just more students would go to girls basketball games. I think that our older community and, you know, people that are in the community have always been supportive of our program, but there's just so much to do, I think, in teenagers' lives today that I wish more and more students would be able to enjoy that experience as well.
And obviously, Maddie playing at Michigan, and then I think you guys played them this year too. What was kind of, now that she's a member of the Indiana Fever, what was like kind of the Caitlin Clark experience like now that she's kind of blown up to being like maybe the most recognizable name in sports in the country right now?
No, I mean, it was really cool. Obviously, when I was playing against her, I didn't like her, but I can definitely respect everything she's done for women's basketball, and her, not only her, but you had people pave the way. And I even tell my mom, like, I was talking to her earlier, and she played at New Mexico State in the 80s, and she was like, I was just excited to get a pair of socks and a practice uniform, and to see now, like, the stage of NIL, and you see Caitlin just signed a multi-million-dollar shoe deal with Nike. People like my mom and the people that came after and before her have really paved the way for us. But yeah, playing Caitlin Clark definitely sucked in the moment, but now my mom's like, you're gonna be able to tell your kids you played against her. And she's a great kid. After they beat us in the Sweet 16, her and Lisa Bluter, Kate Martin, Gabby Marshall, they said, Maddie, good job, like, tell your parents Lisa said, tell your parents we say hi. The other kids were like, great game, fun playing against you these last couple of years. So nothing but respect for those kids. But yeah, I mean, playing in stadiums like that where you got 10 to 15,000 people has really been fun. And it's not just Iowa. Even at Colorado this year, we had a sold out game versus UCLA. We had multiple games with like 8,000 people. So just the stage of women's basketball, and when you give it more media representation, I think is huge too. You had multiple games on ABC, on ESPN this year, more so than I think there have ever been before.
For both of you guys, how have you seen girls basketball, women's basketball grow? Because obviously, Maddie, you're involved with camps. You're hosting your own camp coming up soon, right?
I'm doing training. I train kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there like a lot of an uptick in interest? And then Andy, for you, just over the past few years, have you seen an uptick in participation in youth camps too?
Oh yeah, our youth. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Maguire. Sorry.
No, you got it. You got it. Yep.
I just thought it was cool before, like, Zionsville kids knew who like Rachel and Delaney and I were, but now they know the other names in women's college basketball because they're watching them. And I had some of the kids I trained this summer. One of the moms texted me saying, "Are you gonna be home this summer? Like, we bought season tickets for the Fever." And the amount of people have told me that is insane. And you see, multiple WNBA teams, not just the Fever, selling out their season tickets and having to expand to bigger arenas. And I think that part's really cool. And I'm sure we'll see the youth side of it follow.
Yeah, our youth program, just involvement, the numbers continue to get bigger and bigger. Our youth camps, our numbers have continued to rise. And I think even more so will happen this summer probably. I know that Bronson Licklider was running a little skill development camp, and he had, I think he had 40, kindergartners, first and second graders. I mean, that's a lot, and that's just a great thing to see because, with more younger kids getting involved, your chance of getting better players later on is going to increase for sure.
Will or Josh, do you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last question I have is, Coach, obviously, you have 2 more games left to coach in your career. Like we were saying earlier, going out as a winner, which is very rare in this profession. And then Maddie, your career also is I don't know if it's coming to an end at Colorado or not, but I guess what's the next step for both of you guys?
I'll let Maddie go first. I'm excited for her.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm done with college basketball, but I am planning on playing overseas. Probably starting next fall. I've had a lot of teammates that have played and just really enjoy the experience. Rachel McLemore is actually over in Australia right now. So just picking their brains, but I'm really excited for the opportunity. Travel the world, get paid to play basketball. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I am. I'm really excited for this experience for these last 2 games. I know that we're going to have our work cut out for us. I think this Kentucky group's going to be fairly solid. Just looking at, I kind of started to put a scouting report together, and it's hard to do, but they've got a lot of size and a lot of athletic kids, and so having the opportunity, like you say, to possibly go out a winner and even more importantly to represent the state of Indiana, I couldn't ask for a better opportunity.
I guess just Andy, I mean, we've talked over the years kind of about your coaching journey and things like that. If you had advice for the younger Andy Maguire when he started his coaching, what would that advice just be that you've kind of gained over the years?
I think being patient is really important. I think when we're younger, we're not very patient in a lot of ways. You know, we want things to happen really quickly. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, most things in life don't happen quickly. It takes time. So I would have hoped I'd have been a little more patient. I actually did yell quite a bit when I was younger. I would have told myself to calm down a little bit. You know, I think I tended to overreact. And part of that was, as a young coach, I think that's kind of what we thought we were supposed to do. You know, we watched a lot of coaches, and that's how they coached. They yelled a lot, and they were very animated. And that obviously isn't what makes a coach a good coach. And it took me a while to figure that out. And, you know, I'm glad I did. And I'm glad Maddie got to see maybe a better version of myself than what I was when I was younger.
Awesome. Maddie, is there anything else you'd like to add before we bring this thing home? I'll let you land the plane here.
Oh, perfect. I just say, you know, just so proud of you, Coach Maguire, for not only being the all-star coach this year, but for all of you've accomplished. And like I said, obviously you're a very accomplished coach, but an even better person. And I know not only me, but you've impacted hundreds of lives positively, and no one more deserving to be the coach this year for sure.
I appreciate that, as you know.
Beautiful. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to hop on with us, and Will, you too. Best of luck, Maddie, overseas if we don't see you before then. And Andy, we'll be seeing you here in a few weeks for Indiana All-Stars.
I'm excited. And Will, thank you so much before you get off for all your coverage. You've been obviously a huge supporter of our program and of our coaching staff, and couldn't ask for a better person to cover us.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. And like we've kind of said, I appreciate just how open you were with allowing me, and Brian said it, like whenever I wanted to stop in at practice and just chat for a little bit, you always took the time and made Maddie and other players always available, and made my job a heck of a lot easier. So,
yeah. And before I get off, Brian, I want to thank you, because I think things like this are really important for women's basketball. And I love the way you guys cover women's sports, not just basketball. I read all your softball articles and all those things as well. So I think that's huge. And I think that's part of why we see the numbers increasing, you know, at different levels. So I appreciate that. And Josh, just know you can get back in it someday when you're ready, but I'm glad you're able to enjoy your family right now.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to Andy, Maddie, and Will. For Courtney, Danny, and Josh, my name is Brian Hench, and we'll talk to you again here in a little while.